If you need to take a vacation from your work, you're doing the wrong work. This is a passion business. You gotta be passionate about it. The blessing that I get being able to work every day with my wife, helping her achieve her dream, that's not work. That's a passion project. She fell in love with it. And she's like, I'm only gonna have 5 properties. It's just gonna be a hobby. The hobby now is about a $3 million business 4 years in. And it's all this stuff that we're talking about today that got it there.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Ankerpoint Vacation Rental Podcast. We're here to add value to you and your business and help it grow. And we do that by chatting with people and leaders in the industry, picking their brain, hearing their stories, and figuring out how we can learn from their failures and successes. And today we'll have Mark joining me as a co-host, Mark Bowman. I'm very thankful for that because he's a pro at this. He has his own podcast. He's a communications manager over at BrightSide short-term rental software, which is the sponsor of this episode. And he also does sales and onboarding and a whole bunch of other stuff. But yeah, I'll let Mark introduce our guest today because he knows Keagan a lot better than I do.
Thank you for inviting me on the podcast today, Jacob. And
Yes.
I am really delighted to have Keagan on because, we've worked together through our relationship through BrightSide vacation rental software. They use our product, and so we talk a lot on the phone through support, just different things. He laughs at that. But we're not here to talk really about BrightSide. We're here to talk about Keagan and his vast experience in the vacation rental software market. And give us a little background, Keagan, about how you got in this business, because I know your wife is really instrumental in that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it wasn't a plan at all, actually. It's 100% Kelly's fault in every way, shape, and form. So I actually have a full-time job outside of vacation rentals. So I work in hospice, overseeing back office operations for a very large hospice. And Kelly had homeschooled our children and decided that, when the one's in college, the other one decided to go to public school for high school because she wanted to play sports. And so she found herself with tons of time on her hands, but feeling rather unchallenged because she has an MBA and had pushed herself and then transitioned that into pouring into her children. And she's like, I just want a hobby. That was what she said. She's like, I just want a hobby. So a friend of ours owned a realty firm, Shepherd Realty. And so Kelly's like, I'm just going to go sell houses. So she got a realty license and realized after the first sale, she absolutely hated selling houses. But there was this thing they didn't have called short-term rentals that they had talked about doing for years. She's like, well, let me give it a shot at that. And she fell in love with it. And she's like, I'm only going to have 5 properties. It's just going to be a hobby. And I think in BrightSide now we're over 100. So hobby left a long time ago.
Yeah, I'd say so.
How did I get into? Yeah. So how did I get into this? Well, as she progressed out of hobby land, and actually from the beginning, she was looking at all of the fiscal responsibilities that come around this. And with my background in finance, I said, well, I'll take care of that for you since it's only a hobby. And so it's built up though. In fact, we were talking about it this morning. It's kind of impressive where we started from, what our vision was, and where we're at.
How long ago was that?
Was it, Mark, 3-4 years ago?
3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
You guys have really blown up, so to speak. And I know you're in a hot market. You're in Ocean City, Maryland, right?
Right.
So that seems to be a really hot place to have short-term vacation rentals.
Well, it's partially that. It's partially we have a very different approach to the way we approach short-term rentals. We actually have some friends who's got a daughter that played soccer with our daughter, who did it long before we ever got into it. And then being a small town, we know the other people, and our approach is just very different, and it seems to resonate with both the owners and the guests.
And what's that approach?
It's funny. Just as I pause, I'm like, he's going to ask me to follow up on that.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't leave us hanging like that.
So the approach we've taken with the owners, I think it's a two-sided thing. is that one is that a lot of people, as we watch them, there's a lot of nickel and diming going on. So, for instance, we charge our percentage. So we charge 15% management fee, and that's it, full stop, nothing more. Where some of our competitors are charging yearly marketing fees, and then they're on top of that, they're charging a per stay fee and a booking fee, and there's like all these different fees that they're charging. And like for instance, the other day, so we're actually away this weekend. Right before we left, one of the owners called saying that he wasn't going to be able to come down for the holiday like he thought. He was worried about his place. And I'm like, hey, I'll swing by and take a look at it for you, because I also manage all the maintenance for Kelly. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, just let me know what the bill is. I'm like, there's no bill for me to go check your property when you hire a property manager. Like, that's what we're here for. And he'd come from one of our competitors, and that was his statement. He's like, that's not what I'm used to. I'm used to anytime they needed to step foot on the property, I got a bill, right? Where we treat it truly like it's a partnership. We tell them all the time, like, your home is our home if you entrust it to us. So, so that's the owner side. On the guest side, it really ties back to what Kelly's passion in this business is, and I think that really comes through, and we hear it in some of our repeat guests. She absolutely loves getting to know the guests, and it's getting harder with as many properties we have, but she loves getting to know the guests, why they're coming to our town. Like, is it just because this is where you've always come, or is it for a special occasion? And she will go, if she finds out it's a special occasion, she will go all out. Like, she found out that there was somebody coming in last year for their honeymoon. They were getting married, and she found out because they asked if they could get in early so that they could like put stuff in the fridge or whatever. And she's like, no, because it won't be clean. But what is it that you were hoping to get in there? I'll just put a couple things in for you. And so she found out what the husband's favorite breakfast foods were, had the whole thing lined, had 2 dozen roses in the room, champagne, the whole thing, beach towels for the town that we live in. It was like kind of
Wow.
like a gift from us. Like she loves just pouring into that stuff. She did a vow renewal for a hospice patient, like set up the whole thing. They wanted to come to the beach for one last time, and had made a passing comment to her. And so she surprised them with the whole thing set up, the clergy, the photographer, everything. And she
Oh
doesn't
my
charge anything for
goodness.
like that. That's the stuff that she just, and I think that when you love your guests that much, it comes through.
Definitely. That is incredible. That's something, it feels like a theme throughout some of the people that we've talked to on the podcast, and then just in general doing business with, is hospitality. May not have like an immediate like, oh, there's, they do hospitality. It takes time to establish you as someone who's generous, but that it makes a huge difference in people coming back, I'm sure.
Yeah. And it's generosity, like you're saying, but with integrity, that you're not
Yeah.
doing it hoping for anything in return. You're truly doing it just because that's who you are.
Yeah.
Because I think we've all experienced the people who do it. You can tell that there's like an underlying ask behind the scenes,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Versus those that are doing it altruistically.
What you're talking about, Keagan and Kelly, she just has a heart for hospitality, and it's a servant's heart. It's somebody who
Mm-hmm.
wants to please others and see them happy, and I think that's what it takes to be in this business, because people see that, and who wouldn't want to come back to that,
Right.
right? They'll be telling that story for many, many years. They'll
Mm-hmm.
be talking about what Kelly did for them on their honeymoon. There's no
Yep.
doubt about that.
Yep.
Well, hey, can we switch gears just a little bit right now, because I know that we've got only have a limited amount of time, but I wanted to pick your brain, Keegan, because I think uh, some of the things that you're really good at, and in your business, well, there's a lot of things, but one thing I want to drill down on is your marketing efforts, because I know that I mean, that's what Ankerpoint does. They do marketing for
Mm-hmm.
clients, and I know you do a lot of your own marketing, and some of it is
Mm-hmm.
just it's not really, it's just doing the basics very well, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think you do is like photography with it, like with Airbnb or for your website and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I people call me all the time from because I'm support at BrightSide, and so they'll call me and they'll say, "Why am I not getting any bookings?" And I'll pull up their listing, and it's like, "Man, your photos are terrible. You know,
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, and our listeners, what's your methodology? What's your philosophy about that? And where did you learn it? Tell us everything, Keagan.
Tell you everything in 5 minutes or less. Got it.
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
Timer's on.
All right. So the Reader's Digest version is that it was a two-sided thing. So one, we were noticing. We'll start with the photography. So we were noticing that when we were looking at our listings versus other people's listings, that even though we were hiring a real estate photographer to come and do real estate photography, that there was just something different. There was like a je ne sais quoi that we couldn't put our fingers on, right? And so I started doing a lot of research, and I started following some pretty prominent YouTubers who do Airbnb marketing specifically. And one of the things that they talked about was the AI bots. And I was like, well, what is that? So I started really looking into that. And what Airbnb implemented about 3 releases ago was an AI bot that looks at the photos, and it goes through the photos, and that's how it decides what's going to be at the top. And that was kind of an aha moment for us, because they're trying to compete with the Hiltons, all the big players out there in the world to get the bookings. Because obviously they get their cut of the booking. And so they started like listing out in like the bowels of Airbnb, like what the bot was doing. And luckily, so Sean Rakovich is one that I really like. And he really broke it down in one video about the different things they're looking for. One thing they're looking for is bright colors, bright walls, product layout. You have to not do real estate photography, but do product photography. Yeah. So, and that was such a difference. And then water. And luckily, being a oceanfront resort town, I got water. Like that I can do.
Right.
Right. So we tried working with our photographer to try to get her to understand what we needed. She's the same one who does the photography for the sales side of the business. And she just wasn't really getting it. And my hobby was photography. So I looked at Kelly and I'm like, from what we're paying her, I can go buy some equipment, watch some YouTube videos to truly understand this. And that's what I did. And I do it all now. So to the extent that probably about a year ago, I got my Part 107 to fly my drone, to start flying drones. I do
That's
drone
awesome.
both exterior. And this year originally I was doing like a Matterport style 3D walkthrough. This BrightSide gives you the ability to do that, a virtual tour. And probably about 6 months ago, year ago, when I got my Part 107, I started doing exterior. But then about maybe 2 months ago, I bought a Cinewhoop drone and started learning how to do FPV. And now I'm flying drones through people's houses. And so now we're doing
awesome.
interior video walkthroughs, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback from that. And what's interesting about it is that while Airbnb doesn't support it, VRBO now supports video walkthroughs only if they're posted on YouTube. So what that does for us is that all of the 3D walkthroughs I've done don't matter, right? Because that's not on YouTube. But as we've started doing this, I can now place it directly into our VRBOs, and you're guaranteed top of the listing if you have a video walkthrough.
Wow.
And so we're doing all these things to make sure our properties show on the top. I like this. One of the things I learned in school in marketing was that people don't read past the fold. That's going back to old New York Times, right? So how do we get our properties above the fold? So bigger challenge we have now is that now the number of properties we have, now they're competing against each other. Like I had to have Mark set our website to set the city, like literally from in street order from bottom to top, like by address, because people were starting to argue among our own owners as to why they weren't at the top. So now we're like, it's by the street. Nobody gets preferential treatment, because like where I want preferential treatment on OTAs, not on our own website.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But that actually led into something interesting. And that is that, so in one building, we have 5 condos. And in another building, we have 3. Another complex, we have 3. And by grouping them together, we actually found we were starting to get more family bookings, because people didn't want to stay together, but seeing we had multiple places in one complex, all of a sudden we were starting to get these family bookings where people were reaching out to Kelly now for next summer saying, I need 4 in this building. Do you still have all 4?
Oh, that's smart.
And so, so it actually, while it was really to control the owner experience, it actually had a really interesting side effect.
So how did you share that with the potential, like how was that clear to people that they were so close together? Did you bundle them or say five, like, yeah, how did you present that?
So what I did was, it was something I actually kind of stumbled on. One of our owners transferred one of their properties to us from a competitor. And so I went on the competitor's website because they did it mid-season, and it was kind of an interesting situation. But I noticed our competitor didn't have SEO optimized names on their website. They literally had building and condo number. That's all they had. Like, in theory, it was the most unimaginative thing ever, right? And so what I decided to do was, for our website, that I didn't really care if it was search engine optimized or not, was to follow that model. And I went through all the properties and renamed them so that they were the building. And it had, that even had trickle down effects, because the cleaners loved it. Because now when they just looked at the name of the property, they knew exactly which building they were going to. And so, and our naming convention inside the system also drives Mark nuts. So I'm glad he can't hear me right now.
Oh,
It
yes,
drives
I
him
can hear you.
absolutely up the wall, because I have a very dogmatic approach to it. Nobody's allowed to name properties in our system with the property code, because it's the city, it's the street, it's the owner. So when you just look at it, just by looking at the property code, you know everything about it. And the cleaners have picked up on that, which is good. So then, like, okay, I'm going to 94th Street. I'm looking for this building, this condo. Boom, they're in, and they know exactly where they're going. And they said it saves them sometimes up to 5 minutes per stop, which can really add up on a day that you have a lot of turns. Well, there's one other thing I want to say that I learned that made a massive difference. And that is that a lot of people cheat out on their filling out all the fields on Airbnb and VRBO. And the more complete your listing is, the higher your ranking on the algorithm. So what I did was, I actually, for each area of the city, so inlet, downtown, midtown, uptown, the different communities outside the city, I wrote, and I used Chat GPT, and I wrote like neighborhood descriptions, and they sit in a Word document. So when we bring up a property, grab it, right? So I can get a property up in 5 minutes because I've got this long Word document with like all the stuff I need for like right, the different stories and things, and the house rules, because our rules are the same everywhere, and even if I had to tweak, this place is 25 versus 27, right? Like, I can tweak that one thing, but I don't reimagine everything. There's a system to it.
Yeah. And I would imagine if you had to reimagine it every single time, you probably wouldn't be able to fill all that out every single time.
And that's what I was doing at first, and that was exactly the problem. That was exactly the problem.
It is an issue. There's a lot of people that don't utilize all of the fields that we have in BrightSide that feed out to Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, whatever, and it is detrimental to their booking, because they're just
really
not utilizing all the tools that are there. And it takes a lot of time. They don't, but it's like, this is your business. This is what you do.
I'm curious. So you started you said 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
4
years
max.
ago.
Yeah. 4 was it's a hobby year.
Right. So it wasn't even, so the first year you had how many properties? You said 5?
5
properties. When did it really start growing, and why, what do you attribute to making it grow so quick?
It was 3 things. The first thing that made it grow was Kelly's passion for what she was doing. And the reason I say that is because, being in a brokerage, the agent started giving her properties. Like, hey, this person's buying and they want to rent. So, and she did a referral bonus for the agents. And so that kind of got us really going, right? Because she had her own pool then. Agents, as it turns out, liked it because it kept their buyer in the brokerage. So when they wanted to buy another one, Kelly hates selling houses. She's like, and so like, hey, can you show us more property? She's like, no, but Mitch can, right? He sold you this one. He can sell you another one, and I'll be happy to manage it. So that was the first way. It's really not being a competitor, but a complement in her own brokerage. So that was the first thing. The second thing I think that really took her to the next level was, she's gotten to a place where she's known in the community for what she does. So people are now referring her like, oh, if you're not happy with this agency or that agency, you really need to go with Kelly.
Yeah.
And to the extent that last week she was at City Hall because they're talking about changing our short-term rental policies, and she was there advocating for what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Like she truly is building a reputation in the city. And then I think the third thing that really attributed to the growth was a lot of what we're doing around the marketing, because right now, and because of the economy in our city, the hotels are running around 25 to 40% occupancy. A lot of our competition's running around 50 to 60, sometimes 70% occupancy. And many of our properties were 100% booked last summer. Well, everybody wants
Wow.
that experience as an owner, right? And a lot of that goes back to what we've already talked about. So, because the other thing that she figured out was we don't use a outside pricing tool like a lot of people look into, because of two reasons. One, Kelly knows her market, and she's in there all the time, right? Adjusting to the market herself across all 100 properties. She does not want a system that does it automatically. She wants that level of control, because sometimes she'll call an owner and say, I know you really want this rate. Here are the 6 reasons why we're going to lower it. And they trust her because of it, right? But the flip side of that is she's in there touching the properties a lot, and BrightSide's feeding that to VRBO and Airbnb, and it shows as a refresh. So they bump up again.
Yeah.
Right. And so she's constantly in those properties. And so when you're like the bank that we use, the lady that I work with at the bank to do our direct deposits, she works as a night auditor for bookkeeper. And she's saying that she's watching our deposits, right? Obviously she can see it. And she's talking to me about how different what we have is than other people, because she can see it.
That's awesome. I think it's so it sounds like it comes down to a lot of intentionality, a lot of passion for what you're doing. And if people are, I mean, it's funny because it started off as a hobby, but she's really good and you're really good at what you guys do. And it grew like that's incredibly fast, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And I
super
think that what
super
you
fast.
just said is the secret to the sauce, is there are things she's good at and there are things I'm good at. And I respect what she does in the business, and she respects what I do in the business, to the extent that we're talking in the next probably 12 to 18 months, I'm going to be doing this full time. This will be what we do, which we would have never thought out of something that was started as a hobby, right? Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah, because it's funny. Like as much as she loves pouring into the guests, if I never had to talk to a guest, I'd be happy.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like we're just wired so
Complement each
differently,
other.
but exactly in a complementary way.
Yeah. Specifically, I've run into this issue several times with where a client may have a few properties that aren't booking well,
Mm-hmm.
and they need it to book quickly,
Mm-hmm.
for a certain season. Do you guys have any marketing tactics that like go-to marketing tactics to be like, okay, this isn't where our standards are usually. Here, we're going to put it through this secret marketing tactic to help fill that
What's the
out.
secret sauce? A couple of things. One, Airbnb is where we do about 70% of all of our business in our market, right? So in some markets, it's going to be much lower, right? So I can speak to our market. So we do, and so in BrightSide, it's got this really great screen where it shows us like what percentage of our business is coming from which source, right? And so 71%, as last time I checked, was coming from Airbnb, and about 20% is coming from VRBO. And so like everyone that we signed from late August to now is not allowed to be up on VRBO. You're not allowed to be created, not on Airbnb, not touching Airbnb. They go up immediately on our website. They go up immediately on VRBO, but we will not touch Airbnb. And I just had this conversation the other day. And the reason is we will bring all of those properties live on Airbnb next May. And the reason is Airbnb does a 30-day boost of every new property to see how it's going to perform. Well, I want that boost when a lot of people are starting to book.
Wow.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to, so there's a lot that we have to do of expectation setting. I'm like, okay, it's an off season. You're going to be slow anyways. We're not going to spend this free marketing spend, right? That Airbnb gives everybody. The difference between two properties, one person who was just dogmatic, like, no, I'm going to go live. I'm going to go live. And these were almost identical properties, direct oceanfront, 2 bedrooms, balconies on the beach, right? Like almost direct, like exact, right? One of them last year made $17,000 was their gross rent. The other one made 38.
Wow.
Like it's double, right? So now it's like you can be as dogmatic as you want. We know, like, you hired us, trust us, right? So that's the first thing, is use your marketing spend that you get from those algorithm boosts wisely. Don't waste them. The second thing is, if it's a new property and you have no reviews, okay, people book in this business off of reviews or price, rarely both. Okay. The great guests book off of reviews. The early adopters book off of price. Okay. But we'll leave reviews. So what we tell an underperforming property, so like maybe it's, a studio, Bayside, like there's not a lot going for it. But if you could see the property, you'd be like, this is amazing because it's right next to the amusement park. It's next to this. Like, it's actually got a lot going for it. But on paper, it doesn't look like it. Is we'll undercut the market by like 15%. Not drastically. We're going halfway. We're not crazy here, right? But to make sure we're the lowest cost option, right? And we put in the listing brand new to the market. Leave us our first review in the listing, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're looking for people to leave us our first reviews. And then, you want to talk about Kelly pouring into a stay. She pours into those stays, and she'll rack up, because you don't even get your reviews on the OTAs until you have, I think it's 3 or 5, right? So she's pouring into these things to get that 5-star review to show up, and then she moves the prices up. Right? And she doesn't care how many she gets up to that point. It's just trying to get people in the door, right? So that we can get people in, make sure they have an amazing experience, get that 5-star review, and then push it up.
Yeah.
It's awesome insight. This is one of the takeaways that I've got from this, Keagan, is that, there's some people that get into this and they think it's just going to be a hobby, but then some people think of it as, oh, I can just do this part-time and it'll be fine. How big a deal is it? You book, they get through Airbnb, I approve it, they go over there, I clean it up, and they go, and that's it. Make my money.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's not what's happening here. You're talking. It's something you pour your life into, and something that you spend time with. If you want to make it work and you want to make it profitable and long term, and you want to see the results and everything everybody wants out of it, you have to put into it. And that's what I see. What you and Kelly are doing. You're really putting yourselves into this.
So I'm actually going to go into BrightSide real quick, because I want to pull a number for you real quick, because it's fascinating to me. So I know this is not a BrightSide conversation, right? But I'm going to go ahead and do it anyways. Okay, so when you look at 2022 versus 2024, in 2022, our total, and that was really the year when we first started getting into it's more than a hobby, right? I think that was the year we were up to about 13 properties. Actually, It will tell me. So available units, it says between 1 and 15, right? So small, right? And our total revenue was $189,000. That was our total rent revenue. But then last year is when we got up into the 70s, and we had $1.6 million in gross rent collected. And that doesn't count the cleaning. So we were not happy with any of the cleaning services. So we actually created our own cleaning company, formed it, trained the people. We own it 100%. We drive Mark, Emmett, and Raymond crazy with the way we want our cleanings to work in the system. And they've done a great job for us with that. So the hobby now is about a $3 million business 4 years in, right? And it's all this stuff that we're talking about today that got it there.
You said 2022 you had less than 15 properties, right?
Yeah. We're gonna be at about 110 this year. And so Kelly actually has 2 agents from the brokerage who actually do this part-time with her. They don't want to stop selling, which is fine. But Kelly can't manage all the owners. So now it's a model where, so she has her 80 properties, but some of theirs, they'll manage the owners, but she handles the guests, the bookings, the experience, the operations, all of it. Like you just manage the owner, right? And between the three of them, they're going to be at about 110, 120 properties this summer.
That is wild.
So,
2 years from 15 properties to 120 this,
right.
2025. That's really crazy. I was going to ask you about, because one of our big pushes is getting more and more direct bookings. Do you guys see the value in that? Or are you pushing towards like getting more and more people from Airbnb to book with you directly the next time? Or how do you guys see that?
It's a 50-50. So is there a focus on it? Yes. I started that last year in 2024 on doing some direct booking conversions. And part of the rationale behind that is just customer stickiness, right? Once they realize they don't pay the fees, then they really get sticky. They've already liked the property. They've already left a 5-star review. That makes them sticky. But on the flip side, knowing that your revenue generation is coming through the OTAs, like it's a necessary thing. So you got to balance, how do I create the stickiness while not losing my revenue stream? And so when we have people who absolutely love a property and they're just messaging us, the moment they message us outside of one of those apps, game on, just game on, right?
Yeah.
So, and Kelly has some people who come back every month, same condo, same thing. I want the same thing, right? And like it's their home away from home, right? And the owners love it because those people will take care of the place like it's their own. So a lot of times it'll be even a lower rate for that person just because they're just so loyal. But then you actually want to maintain, because what you don't want to do is lose your superhost status.
Yeah.
Because that's what's bringing in all the new business.
Yeah.
So there are some other businesses in our town who don't use the OTAs at all. And they do a ton of marketing and like to drive, but it's a ton of work versus our initial contacts are handed to us on a silver platter. Our job is to capitalize on it. So this year, what we're doing is we're actually going into Canva, creating a QR code directly to the property on our website saying, like this property, scan here to book next year.
That's smart.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So we can get them that way. So
yeah, physical things inside the property.
Right.
What do you guys put like getting into the nitty gritty, the practical? Are you making a magnet, putting it on the fridge? How are you getting that?
Small magnet on the side of the fridge, so that way it doesn't show in an Airbnb photo.
Yeah, smart. I know we're nearing the end of our time, but I wanted to ask you about looking forward. I have I guess a 2-part question here. What's something, I know you mentioned, hopefully in the next maybe 15 months doing this full time. So I'm sure you're looking forward to that, but what's some things you're looking forward to in the next few years you're planning for, and maybe even more immediately, what's some stuff you're starting to do now to prepare for 2025 in your business?
Yeah. So July, August or so is when we officially started doing our own maintenance in-house. And that was a game changer. One, just being able to deploy Adam at a moment's notice. And he actually lives in the city, Midtown, so he can get anywhere pretty fast, which is nice. And then that's going to have to scale up because we're getting to a point where, with scale comes burden unless you get the burden out of the system. And the focus right now, ironically, is less on owner management. We've got that down. We've got the owner experience figured out. It's into employee experience. So we've gone to paying. So we pay our cleaners well, very, very well. We're paying double the market rate in our town. But there's something we expect out of that. And they all know it and they own it and they love it. Right.
Wow.
And we've got 2 or 3 that are full-time year-round. Like these are 3 ladies we just invest in for various reasons. The rest are teachers because they're out of school when we need the work. So it's the perfect seasonal handoff.
Oh, that's smart.
And so we built up, right? So But on the flip side, they're all doing this in an attempt to make easy money over the summer, right? So implementing paying weekly, direct deposit, like just doing things to make it as good of an employee experience as possible. And then in our town, there's big concert festivals, and one of our properties is right on the sand where they do the concerts. So we booked one and like basically set up a party for the whole weekend where they could come and go
Oh,
for the
that's
whole
cool.
weekend. So still had work to do, but hey, when you're not working, don't pay $300 to get into the festival. We got a front row seat for you right here, and we've got all the snacks and drinks and everything you could possibly want with parking right here, right? So really, it's a lot of pouring in because we know that that's going to be our next pinch point. And if we can build this loyal team of guys and gals that just are part of and it's also building in like a family environment, like everybody's got everybody's back kind of a experience. That's our next thing.
Yeah.
Because it's getting to that level.
It's I can foresee a lot of people, and we know several businesses in this position where a lot of these things you're talking about is maybe feels like a luxury to focus on the details because they're so occupied with the urgent. How did
Mm-hmm.
you make time for that when it's especially just you two starting off and you grew so quickly? How did you make time for those details that arguably are more important, but they're definitely not urgent. Like they're not like, oh, I have to get this done. So how did you, I guess you prioritized it, but walk me through that.
Recognizing it's urgent.
Okay.
So, and I'm not going to say it was easy. There were many, many an argument at home, many, many an argument, right? Where Kelly's like, we don't need to do X this detailed, right? You're being OCD, right? And I'm like, I'm not bending, right? Like, and now the OCD is what makes us scalable. On the flip side, a lot of grace. So,
Yeah.
there was a lot of intentionality into everything as urgent. And neither of us was allowed to say that the other person's urgent wasn't urgent. Right. Right. But on the flip side, a lot of grace in saying, okay, we can't do it all. There's only two of us. Right. And so trying to figure out what urgent was. And sometimes it was like when we moved to a completely kind of like a DocuSign system for all of our document management for bringing up new properties, it solved a lot of problems for us, taking everything paperless. Because one, it sits in there, and then I actually store it in two places because I believe in redundancy. In BrightSide, I have all the documents, but then in QuickBooks on their vendor file, I have all their documents. I have in both places. We don't lose files anymore because we realized right around property 10 or 15, like we didn't want all these files, right? So, but how did you balance that versus Kelly trying to say, okay, but we got to get them up quick because the season's coming, right? And so there was a lot of grace giving that we worked together early in our careers and it didn't go so well, where I think now we're a little bit more mature and it's like recognizing the strengths each of us brings and how they actually complement and shore up the other one's weaknesses. So to answer your question, I know it's a roundabout way to say it, but it's not taking the attitude that anything isn't urgent. Everything's urgent, right? Even figuring out how to do your document management, that's urgent because if you don't figure it out at 10, you're going to be really messed up at 50.
Right.
So everything is urgent and a lot of late nights. I mean, there were many, many nights early on when we were up till 2 a.m. working on stuff. Right.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, when we, it's a work hard, play hard. Right. Like, one of the running jokes between Mark and I is, when do I get most of my work done? On a cruise ship. Yeah, it's like the protection of time. Like we went there, everybody thought we were untouchable, and we got so much done, right? So we could focus on it. And do you need to go on a cruise ship out in the middle of the ocean? No. Maybe it's a cabin, like maybe it's whatever, but it's secluding the time, right?
I was just getting ready to bring up that story because when people say, how do you deal with all the urgent? And I was going to say, well, I know how he does it. He's on a cruise, so and he calls me. And I'm like, are you crazy?
And Jacob, it hasn't been once. That's happened 3 or 4 times, right?
Yeah.
To the point that Mark will say, like on like Monday afternoon, like, okay, you've called me 4 times now. Are you on a cruise ship? Yeah. It's like, okay, I know how my week's gonna go.
Yeah, because I know he's on vacation because he's calling me more.
Well,
That's
see,
hilarious.
so like him or hate him, Donald Trump has a quote from years ago, long before he ever got into politics, okay, that I absolutely ascribe to. And it was, if you need to take a vacation from your work, you're doing the wrong work. Now, that's probably not a direct
Hmm.
quote, right?
Yeah.
But it's absolutely true. Like, I think the blessing that I get being able to work every day with my wife, helping her achieve her dream, like, that's not work. That's a passion project,
Mm.
you know? So, does it bother me to do that on a cruise ship? No, because I'm doing what I love. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's another piece of it. And we talked about it earlier. Like, if you're trying to do it like part time, you're not gonna like. This is a passion business. You gotta be passionate about it. So my wife's passionate
Keagan,
about the experiences, and I'm passionate about her. So it works out.
perfect fit right there.
We just need to get that
So,
clipped and we can send it to uh to Kelly.
To Kelly, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Don't tell her that. Stays between us.
Yeah.
That's the guy's bar talk right there.
Yeah. We're just gonna send it out to a bunch of people, but no worries.
I have so many questions. I could sit here for the next hour and talk to you,
I know
Keagan,
this is awesome.
about how you do that and how you made it a success. And because I think there's what we're getting here is incredible feedback. Who are struggling in this industry, and they think, well, I don't have the big budgets. I mean, we've got people that pay us a lot of money to market, or not us, but Ankerpoint, a lot of money to
Hmm.
market their business, and boy, they do get results. I mean, I'm telling you, I look at the numbers when they're coming in, but you've been able to do something without all the big budgets, just going out there and doing what you do, and
Hmm.
a lot of people that are going to be encouraged by this, Keagan. I mean, they're really.
Hmm.
I think you and Kelly are doing an amazing job, and I'm really grateful to be just play the little bitty part that I do, just trying to help you guys, and
Yeah.
because that's our role is to help you be successful, and we really do try to do that all the time. So I'm thrilled.
Well, and Jacob, I know you said that BrightSide sponsoring, so I don't mind plugging them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because they're sponsoring your podcast here
Yes,
today, right?
yes.
But there's something to that. Like, so we've been with Brightside longer than Mark has. Right? We were Brightside during the days of the Emmett and Raymond. You called and you got them. In fact, the other
Yes.
day I was teasing Emmett because Mark was out sick, and I called and I got Emmett. I'm like, oh, it's like the good old days, right?
Yeah.
And
I-
Oh,
right. And since
wow.
and since I've got you, here are the 16 things, right? But there's some, I guess we've arrived at a certain point where like now we're getting harassed by their competitors, right? Like it was like we gotten to this point where we're getting reached out to, right? And the one thing that I've said many times to every one of those people is called is, so what's this? What's your owner's cell phone number? Well, I can't give you that. I'm like, well, I have bright sides. Like if I was down, I can call and I will be up. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter when, right? Like when I have an issue, like so, like what's your process around that? And I'm like, okay, so, and I have a crazy idea. How do I get it implemented? I'm like, well, you put it in the development cubicle. I'm like, okay. I had a crazy idea about automating. So, like, one of my biggest problems, Mark and I've talked about this a million times, is paying owners at the end of the month. They want their money now, right?
Yeah.
Which fair. Like, that's not an unfair expectation. You have 80 properties and you're manually keying that into QuickBooks, which is what I was doing originally.
Hmm.
That was not a fun experience. And I found a system where I like pulled 4 or 5 different reports from Brightside, mashed them together with these massive Excel queries, right? Came up with an import file, and then I could import it into QuickBooks, right? They took a look at that and they're like, yeah, we'll build that for you. And 60 days later, I have a custom QuickBooks import where when I'm done my month, I hit a button, there's my
Yeah.
import. 2 minutes later, it's in QuickBooks, and they output my notcha file for my bank. It goes to the owners. I put it all in, I mark it all as paid. Within 5 minutes, I have. So in July, I paid out 600 and some odd $1,000 to various owners. And with the work that they did, it literally went out almost instantaneously. And the rent came off my balance sheet. All my income went onto my P&L all in under 5 minutes,
Yeah.
right? That would have taken me hours. before. I mean, how can you not love a company like that? So there's a piece to this that is that though, right? So I mean, you can look at what we're doing with marketing, whatever, right? But the difference in having the tools that work for you. So so Kelly's dad was a contractor. He's retired now, and he used to always say, "It's like never like." And we've been together since high school, so like he's poured into me for years, and he would always say to me, like, "Don't try to drive in a finishing nail with a sledgehammer, right? Use the right tool for the job." And there's something to that wisdom, right? You gotta have the right tool, to make it happen. All the strategies are great. You don't have the right tools, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, I don't think we need a little excerpt for the BrightSide promo. I think that's it right there.
Yeah. I really, well, it's a mutual admiration society here because we really respect what Keagan and Kelly are doing at Shepherd Realty, and they use our software for what it's the purpose is, and really we do want to do whatever we can to help support our clients, and you can reach us on the phone, and yeah, it's sort of turning into a BrightSide commercial. I don't want it to do that, but I mean, we do all that we can to support the people that use our software as much as we can.
Keagan, I want to respect your time. I know you have like 5 minutes before your next meeting. But if someone wants to get in touch with you or partner with Shepherd Realty, what's a good way for them to get in touch with you?
So my email's probably best. So so it would actually be Keagan at whitemarlinpropertyservices.com.
Okay.
And I'm happy to take any questions and respond back. So email is best.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for all your wisdom and your time. We'll have to do this again. And so many questions came to my head and I wrote several down. So maybe we can do it again another time and squeeze some more wisdom out of you. But I really appreciate I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, you did a great job. So thanks for making it fun.
Thanks, Keagan.
Yeah, absolutely.